I knew nothing about 3D printing just a few days ago, and then I got this. This is the Longer LK4 X 3D printer. Let me tell you how I printed this in just a matter of minutes from unboxing this printer. If you're like me, you've probably heard of 3D printing, and you might have found it interesting. So did I. But until just a few days ago, all I had seen were photos and videos. I'd never seen one of these operating in person. Now, I do want to say that I was sent this 3D printer. That way I could test it and see how easy it was for me to learn 3D printing, but I'm not being paid for this video whatsoever. I'm going to give you my true opinions about this. Whenever I found out they were sending me this 3D printer, I started watching YouTube videos and reading articles trying to learn about 3D printing. Basically, I took a 2-day crash course in 3D printing. But I finally got the printer and I started unboxing it. So the unboxing process was pretty easy. You can see when you open it up, it comes with a scraper, and then of course your power cable, some other accessories here, and then also just a little bit of filament. I didn't know this was coming with filament, so I purchased my own, but it also has a little quick start to kind of get you set up here as well. I'm gonna go ahead and pull out the parts, and we'll talk more about these individual parts later. Remove the little middle insert here. There's a piece of plastic, don't lose that. And now I struggled trying to get this out. Since this is 95% assembled already, I figured out the best way for me was just to turn it upside down carefully and remove the box that way. Once you had the box removed, then you can carefully turn it back upright. And this just worked out better for me than the other way. So just kind of work around this to make sure you can pull it out. And then, like I said, it's already mostly assembled. So you just kind of have to work it out of the little foam that it comes with. Now I'm just standing this here for the time being so I can grab all of the other pieces. So you just want to be careful that it doesn't fall over. You'll see all of the parts and the wrenches that you need to assemble this are all together, which I think is great. I like the fact that each individual bag is labeled, so that helps a lot. So we're just installing the frame and kind of get it started from the bottom. You can see as I reach underneath there and get a screw started in. Once you get the screw started in, then you might have to flip it on its side carefully to go ahead and use the included Allen wrench to tighten them. Once you get those tightened, then of course you can flip it back over and you're good to go. We're going to install the filament sensor here on the top of it, but you just want to make sure you use the appropriate screws and install that, as well as the filament holder. So this is what will hold your spool of filament, and then installs on the top just the same way. Next, we're going to install the bed leveler. So this is the automatic leveling system, which I think is awesome. It has a little clip here that you want to install on the side of the actual head or the extruder part here. And then you want to clip it in, go ahead and connect it. And I just used my thumbnail and kind of connected that leveler there. Then go ahead and put it in the little tray, and it has some screws that you want to screw it into the little metal tray or metal clip there. Pretty self-explanatory, but this whole process doesn't take that long. Now, you have the screen or the little touchpad that you want to go ahead and plug into the back of it, and then we're going to mount it on the front of it. Mount it kind of as far over to the right as you can there. That way it clears the bed, but it's really, really easy. Now we're going to plug up the cable to the filament sensor. We're going to plug up the other cable that is here in the back of it. Here is the bed warmer, as you can see me clipping that in. Now the other cable that we had to plug in was on the front. It was a little bit difficult to get to, but I finally managed to go ahead and get it plugged in. As you can see there on the front, it took me just a little bit, but finally I got it plugged in. Plug the power cable into the back of it. And then the only other thing we need to do here is go ahead and lay that filament sensor wire down and use that piece of plastic and put it down into the little groove or the tray to kind of hold it in place there. And I had to press kind of hard to get it in there. Next, cut off your zip ties. Be very careful about this. You don't want to damage anything. Go ahead and clip the zip ties, remove them. The one on the bottom was harder to get to, but you can remove it as well. The unboxing and setup process was pretty easy. Like I said, this is 95% pre-assembled, so there's not a lot to do. The instructions that were included could be a little clearer on some things, But by using common sense and looking at the photos, you should be able to assemble this and get it up and going in about 10 to 15 minutes. So now let's power on the 3D printer. We're going to go to the control panel and click on leveling. We're going to do a manual leveling here, just so we make sure and get it as level as we can. Press the first button and you'll see that the bed and the head will start moving to get in place for you to actually level this. Now there's some screws, like on the bottom, you'll see there little thumb screws or whatever. That's how we're going to be leveling it. But first it goes ahead and gets an adjustment here so it kind of knows how high to be there from the bed. Now we're going to put a piece of paper underneath the nozzle and the bed. That way we can adjust it. You want just a little bit of tension on that paper to make sure it's at the right height. Go ahead and adjust the thumb screws on all 5 locations here. So just move it to the next one and then do the same thing. So go around the whole bed, making sure that you have each one adjusted to where it needs to be. Now, once you have that done, you can do some fine-tune adjustments. So that way you can control it just a tiny bit to make sure you get it perfect. So here you want to just make sure that you get it to where that paper has just barely any tension on it whatsoever. Now it's going to tell you that the offset is finished. It's going to start the 16-point auto leveling. As you can see how it will move from point to point and go ahead and do the auto leveling. Once it is finished, it's telling you you're ready to print. So now let's load the SD card in. It's a little micro SD card that you load into the front of the 3D printer. And then you want to make sure that you have filament in this. So we're loading this Overture filament through the sensor and getting ready to print. So first off, we're going to go to the filament button. We're going to tell it to load, and it's going to heat up the nozzle. So once the nozzle has heated up to the 200 degrees, then it's ready to load. Now is the time that you take your filament and stick it in the hole in top of the head, and you'll see the gears start moving to go ahead and bring this filament down into the head of it. Once it is finished, it will go back to the filament screen, letting you know it's ready. Now we're going to go into file. We're just going to use the file on the card, which we're going to use the cube file, and we're going to tell it to open, which will start this print. So all you have to do is tap on the screen, tell it to start, and this thing is going to start heating up. You can see the bed is going to heat up first to 60 degrees, and then the nozzle will go ahead and make sure it's up to 200 as well. Once it is heated up and ready to go, you'll see it starts its leveling process again here to make sure that that bed is leveled. That way you don't have any second guessing about whether you're level or not. Once the bed is level, this thing starts going. So it will start extruding some filament first, just to make sure that it's coming out of the nozzle fine here on the side of it. And once it finishes that, it goes ahead and moves over to the middle to start the actual print. I'm printing this directly from the card. Nothing done on the computer whatsoever. So it is printing this raft. I found out later that's what it's called. It's a raft that is around this cube. So it starts printing right away. You can see kind of how this raft looks. And as we watch it here for just a second, this is the very first thing I'm printing on this. And this is within minutes after unboxing this thing. You can see it laying down the lines there, getting this raft ready to print. So as it was printing the raft, a customer came in the store, and I missed the point where it actually started printing the cube, but it looks very cool. I watched it for a while, and this was just amazing watching this cube finish up here. So yeah, it worked perfect right out of the box, no problem whatsoever. When this was finished, it took 1 hour and 3 minutes total to print the whole raft and the cube. And this is the way it looks right on the bed. And I think this turned out very well. I'm very excited that it was this easy to print. Now we're going to take the spring steel bed off here. It's magnetized to it. And we're just going to spring it just a little bit. And this PEI coating on this is very nice. As you can see, it popped right off and kind of just slid off of it here. So this is what it looks like on the bottom of the raft with that texture from that PEI coating. I think it's nice. And then all we have to do is peel this raft off. And I kind of had to tear it a little bit, and it didn't get all of it completely. Kind of left a few little pieces on it that I had to take an X-Acto knife to go ahead and trim it up. Don't do like me, go ahead and cut away from you. That way you don't cut yourself. But yeah, this cube turned out very nice. I don't see any issues with it whatsoever. I would have never guessed that I would have been able to unbox my first 3D printer, assemble it, set it up, level it, and print my first object in less than 90 minutes. In fact, shortly after that, I printed my first Benchy. This printer has a lot of great features and selling points. In fact, I'll let you pause the screen right here if you want to read all of those. But as a brand new newbie to 3D printing, let me tell you my 3 favorite features about this thing. First off, it's mostly assembled. I can't imagine having to assemble one of these from scratch. This just made it so easy to get it up and going right away. Secondly, it has the 16-point auto leveling system, which is great to ensure that you get a level bed every time. And thirdly, the PEI coating on this spring steel bed makes sure that you get great adhesion, but still allows you to remove your object easily. I am super excited that I was able to get quality prints for my first time ever using a 3D printer from this machine. Now I know to get the most out of my printer, I need to install a slicing software, and this comes with Cura. I'll be installing that and tweaking my files and trying to get all those settings later on. In fact, I'll be making another video in about a month after having this. That way I can let you know how this is going. I'll also let you know what I've learned, how easy it has been for me to pick up on this process. But as for right now, I have another Benchy going over here, printing out in purple filament. Thanks to Longer for sending me this printer so I could test it and to learn 3D printing on. Thanks for liking, commenting, and subscribing. And until next time, God bless.